On July 26th at noon, emergency services were called to the Cherwell River. Several calls came in to the police reporting a body floating in the river. After the police officers arrived, the entire area was cordoned off. The police later confirmed that the body was that of a man between his late 20s and early 30s. The police were able to identify the body. It was Jorge Martin Coreno. His relatives were notified 24 hours later. Jorge Martin Coreno was 30 years old and had moved to Oxford from Spain. He was born in Las Pastas de Gran Canaria and moved to the United Kingdom with his girlfriend in 2019. They broke up but remained good friends. The man was an engineer by profession and studied electrical engineering at the university. At the time of his death, he was working at one of the BMW plants. On the evening of his death, he had been drinking with his colleagues and had gone home afterwards. Jorge's family said that he was considerate and kind and always helped others. His curiosity and creativity motivated him to constantly explore, learn, and experiment with new things. He loved music, photography, reading, and sports. He also played the guitar and often visited museums with friends. He had two twin brothers. They were triplets. The police had found out the identity of the deceased and were now able to find out what had happened to him that night. Of course, they first looked at surveillance cameras, studied phone data, and eyewitness accounts. A sinister omen was the message from a friend of Jorge's who had sent him a text message a few hours before his death, telling him that Oxford was a dangerous place and sending him an article about an attempted murder. During the investigation, the police found that Jorge was not alone before his death. Several cameras show Jorge walking in the company of a mysterious figure. He and Jorge were recorded from different angles and in different places. The main question was, who was this hooded man? What was he doing with Jorge, and what happened between them? On the evening of July 24, 2021, Jorge went to the city center with his friends. They visited a pub and then went to another pub at 1 o'clock in the morning. Then Jorge received a message from his friend warning him of the dangers of Oxford and sharing an article about an attempted murder. He responded to this message with a smiley emoji. At 2 o'clock in the morning, he said goodbye to his friends. For the next hour, he was with other friends. Then he was alone. At 3:16 a.m., Jorge was standing in Worcester Street and recording the way home on his GPS. 4 minutes later, he was spotted by a camera in Gloucester Street. He called a friend, but unfortunately, he didn't pick up. He continued to search for the way on the GPS. At 3:33 minutes, the footage shows Jorge accidentally dropping his wallet, returning a minute later, picking it up, and walking in a different direction. He seemed to have gotten lost and was trying to find his way using the navigation device. Another camera caught an unknown figure passing by the park at 3:35 a.m. At 3:59 a.m., this man walked down Cat Street. At exactly 4 o'clock in the morning, both men were at the same location. Jorge was sitting on the ground when the unknown man approached him. They talked for about 12 minutes and then walked away together. The cameras show the two of them walking down the street. It was not clear at this point where they were going, but Jorge agreed to go with the unknown man. After that, they walked towards the park. It was very suspicious that Jorge and the stranger were only a few meters from where the man's body was later found. This was already a clue, because until then, everyone had assumed that his death was an accident. The autopsy revealed that he had died of poisoning and drowning. Although he had a blunt force trauma to the head, investigators thought he had fallen, hit his head, and drowned. This didn't make sense. But for 2 years, they believed this accident. Finally, new evidence was found. Forensic scientists found a vodka bottle cap next to the man's body. After examining it, they found the DNA of Jorge and another man on the cap. After watching the surveillance video again, they saw that this stranger was carrying the bottle of alcohol. Then the police had a question. Was Jorge murdered? And if so, why? For a long time, no one knew what had happened to Jorge. His death seemed suspicious, but there was no serious evidence or people who were interested in his death. Soon, the city's residents returned to their normal lives and forgot about the unknown hooded figure. George's family was left without answers. For 2 years, the case remained unsolved, but one day, the police received a strange call. It came from a woman in the U.S. who said her friend, who lived in Oxford, had confessed to the murder of a man. The friend's name was Scarlet Blake. Ashlin Bell, who lives in the U.S., had a relationship with the 22-year-old Scarlet Blake. She lived on the same street where George's body was found. She and Ashlin met online and started chatting online. Ashlin said that Scarlet was interested in death, and the women often talked about killing people and animals. Ashlin also revealed that Scarlet confessed to killing Jorge and throwing his body into the river. But that's not all. In March 2021, Scarlet's neighbors became concerned because their cat had disappeared. Apparently, Scarlet was responsible for the animal's disappearance, as she took the cat out of the house with food and put it in a cage. She bought a camera, a tripod, and a lighting system, and filmed the cat's murder live on television. She dismembered the cat's body, skinned it, and later ground it up in a blender. By giving information about the murder price, Ashlin put herself in danger, as she was also involved in it. In addition, the killing of the cat on television was her birthday present to herself. She knew that this information would help to prove that Scarlet was the one who killed Jorge. During the broadcast, Scarlet smiled and said that she wished she could do the same to a human. After that, even stranger things happened. Scarlet began to act like a murdered cat. She frequently meowed in the presence of her friends. She entered her personal information into a national animal database, downloaded it onto a chip, and inserted it into her chest. Ashlin confirmed that this is exactly what happened, but there was worse. Ashlin had evidence. Jay was walking down the street with a stranger at 2:30 a.m., a few hours before he died. Scarlet sent Ashlin a photo of herself wearing the exact jacket she was wearing when she later killed Jorge. She sent this jacket to Ashlin in the USA. The police seized it for testing. They found traces of Ashlin's DNA on the jacket. With this information in hand, the police decided to track down Scarlet and eventually arrested her. During her arrest, she complained that she had no cigarettes and was therefore not in the mood. She didn't want to stop smoking. The police officers told her they had a specialist who could help her overcome her nicotine addiction and offered her nicotine patches. However, she refused, saying that it was not the same as cigarettes. She complained that she felt unwell because of the arrest and was having withdrawal symptoms without cigarettes, but added there are worse things, e.g., genocide. During her arrest, new details of the case came to light. Pictures of a homemade garrote used to strangle a person and a picture with rose petals laid out in the shape of the letter F were found on her cell phone, possibly a reference to Jack the Ripper. A scene from a comic book was found, in which a man talks to a cat while cleaning a crime scene. Another picture showed the starter pack for a date with Scarlet: a knife, a gun, duct tape, and a rope. A fifth picture showed women that Scarlet liked, including 2 of the perpetrators. It turned out that Scarlet had already started planning the murder in January 2021, when she bought a cat trap from an online store. In February, she bought a bottle of vodka. The cap of this bottle was later found by the police near Jorge's body. Even if it wasn't the same cap, this definitely confirms that it was Scarlet's bottle, because she loved this alcohol. In March, Scarlet bought more than 100 bags of cat food. The family that had lost the cat then began to post about the missing pet on social media. By this time, Ashlin and Scarlet had already been talking about the murder for months. Unfortunately, this continued for several more months. On April 6, 2021, Scarlet bought military boots. Security footage confirms that she was wearing these boots on the night of the murder. In May, she bought a black Macintosh and a handsaw. At 2:30 a.m. on the night of the murder, Scarlet took a picture and sent it to Ashlin. Then she went in search of her victim. In the process, she found Jorge. Jorge's family was in shock. On the other hand, they finally learned that Jorge's death was not an accident. Finding out the name of the murderer was a big step forward for them. However, it reminded them once again of their loss, which they had been mourning for 2 years. And now at the trial, they will have to relive this nightmare. Scarlet's trial took place 6 months later. At the trial, she had to defend herself before a judge and 12 jurors. The prosecutor built his case that Scarlet was a sadist who first killed a cat and then a man. Her defense attorney was weaker. He argued that there was not enough evidence for the charge. During the trial, Scarlet stated that she was half cat. It was her alter ego that she always felt. She revealed that this alter ego appears when she is happy. She also explained that she greets her friends with a meow. She has always associated the cat with joy, kindness, and childlike innocence. She confirmed all of this by meowing at the jury. She also said that she didn't know how Jorge died and that she assumed he had drowned. She said she wasn't there. At the trial, a correspondence between Scarlet and Ashlin was shown, in which they talked about their obsession with violence and death. Scarlet stated in court that she did not want to kill any living being, especially not a human. She also said that it was Ashlin who forced her to do it. Scarlet justified her behavior with a dissocial personality disorder. The psychiatrist who conducted the tests found her behavior strange, but no mental illness was found in Scarlet. There were also no signs of illness in her past. She denied her guilt in Jorge's murder and said she simply dropped him off in front of the park. She admitted to killing the cat, but added that she did it for Ashlin. Yes, she said, Ashlin was also sick, but the responsibility still lay with her. The prosecutor soon found out that Scarlet was influenced by the documentary Hands of Seals. On the video of the live broadcast, the song Unfaith by New Order can be heard, which provided the soundtrack for the film. The prosecutor claimed that Scarlet had taken a murder kit with her on the night of the murder. Not surprisingly, she denied all allegations. It also turned out that a few days after the murder, Scarlet had taken photos of the memorial and the tree at the spot where Jorge had died. A year later, Scarlet returned to the crime scene and took photos next to the tree. By this time, she had already broken up with Ashlin and was bragging to her new girlfriend about the murder. 3 possibilities for Jorge's death were considered. He was strangled with a rope or bare hands and lost consciousness before drowning. He was hit on the head, lost consciousness, and drowned. He was held underwater until he stopped breathing. Death could also have been caused by a combination of these factors. However, the bleeding in his head indicates that the death was not accidental. Even if an accident were assumed, the bruises on his right shoulder and left side of his head could only have been caused if he had fallen on his back, hit a reinforced concrete slab, and then tipped over face down. This rules out the possibility of an accidental death. This was bad news for Scarlet. During the trial, she showed no emotion. At the end of the trial, the jury took 2 hours to reach a verdict. They found Scarlet guilty of murder. She was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of applying for parole after 24 years. In addition, she received a 4-month prison sentence for killing the cat, although the sentence does not seem to be much. Parliament has recently increased the maximum penalty for animal cruelty from 6 months to 5 years. However, Scarlet's case was tried before the amendment came into force, so the sentence remained unchanged. George's family expressed relief at the verdict. They then released a statement in memory of Jorge. It said, "Loss has left an indelible wound in their lives. He was robbed of a life full of dreams and new projects." With these words, they not only paid tribute to their son, but also demanded justice. The family asked to continue to fight for justice and to believe in a better future. Every day, they will remember his smile, his laughter, and his zest for life. Jorge had a wonderful sense of humor, was kind, ambitious, and above all, a good person.
He traveled from Spain to Oxford to start a new chapter in his life, explore new cultures, and discover new opportunities. On the day he was murdered, he was in the company of friends who loved him when his life was taken. His life was taken to satisfy a twisted fantasy. For his family, his death was a devastating blow. Jorge's death was senseless and tragic. A few hours before, he didn't even know his murderer. We should all be wary of strangers on the street. Most of the time, it's women to whom such stories happen.
But that doesn't mean that men can't be victims too. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourselves.